Fallout 4, the fifth installment of around 6 games and a few spin-offs. Fallout 4 was made by Bethesda Softworks, who, led by Todd Howard, are responsible for the creation of Fallout 3 and a bunch of other good games, and some we just don't mention. One of my personal favorite games, I wanted to go back to it 5 years after its release and see if I could still enjoy the vanilla game as it was. That means no mods, and see if it still held up in 2020. My name is Danton, and this is No Nonsense Reviews, where I look at games, movies, TV, and the such, and review them in a more casual point of view. I'm not here to judge it by its every little detail. I'm not here to judge all the nitpicky shit. I just want to know if it's pretty engaging with its story, if it's actually good to look at and I can sit through it. And if so, was it fun and did I enjoy myself? For the story, I'm going to go over a brief summary. Now, while I say brief, I am going through the entire main campaign beginning to end. No side quests and obviously spoilers ahead, so be warned. Set in a fictional version of Boston in the year 2077 on the brink of war, you and your family are signed up for your spots in the nearest vault shelter. You know, in case the bombs drop. And they do, like literally moments after. Once you descend from Armageddon into Vault 111, you're soon put, well, tricked really, into being the latest in the twisted experiments of Vault tech, cryogenic stasis. Which, I mean, would be totally cool if you didn't wake up to find your wife shot by a mercenary and your son stolen by someone in a hazmat suit. You're put back on ice, and when you wake up, the vault is in ruins and everyone's dead. So you do the normal thing and loot some corpses and make your way back to the surface, only to find the world in ruin. Then, you start your quest to find your son. First, you head back to your house in Sanctuary, only to find Codsworth, your robot butler, still there. He tells you it's been 200 years since the bombs dropped. After that, he's pretty useless, but he does point you towards Concord, and along the way you find Dogmeat, who is actually the most useful character in the main story, and he's a really good boy. Together you head into Concord, where you find Preston and the Minutemen under fire by a gang of raiders, and after getting a set of power armor, you mop the floor with everyone outside, and then a f***ing Deathclaw shows up. I hate the Deathclaw. Anyways, once that's over, Preston and Mama Murphy, the drug-addicted psychic, tell you to head towards Diamond City. And then they move into your place and take all your stuff. Once you make it to Diamond City, aka Fenway, you meet the rebellious Piper Wright. She tells you about the detective in the city that can help you find your son. Also, she's super paranoid about something called the Institute, the boogeyman of the Commonwealth. As it turns out, the detective Nick, who's a damn synth, needs your help after getting in deep with the mob. Once you save him, the two of you uncover the name of the mercenary that kidnapped your son and killed your wife, Kellogg. But since Nick can't find him, it's up to Dogmeat, the Almighty, to track his scent. He really is the most useful character in this game. Once you find and obliterate Kellogg, you discover the Institute have your son. This is when the Brotherhood of Steel decide to make a dramatic entrance. You can choose to fight with them, but I was like, nah, screw these guys. Instead, I made my way to Goodneighbor with Nick to see if Dr. Amari could help us poke around Kellogg's brain remnants for clues? It was really gross. Once you look past Kellogg's life trauma, you discover the Institute has been using teleportation to bounce around and elude the world above. So we're sent on another chase, this time for a Shrek-looking mutant scientist named Virgil. He's hidden inside Ground Zero, the glowing sea, which is usually pretty terrifying, but not if you have a fat man. Once we find Virgil, he sends us after a courser who we need to kill in order to hack into the frequencies and get into the Institute once we have the teleporter built. But there's one issue. Virgil can't hack it, so we end up back with Dr. Amari, who ends up giving you a riddle in order to find her friends, the Railroad, who are hidden in a secret base inside of Boston. And as a Massachusetts native, this was pretty easy to figure out, let me tell you guys, dude. Inside their secret base, the Railroad looks to free all synths and let them live. And with their help, we can finally hack the signal and get the teleporter up and running so we can make it into the Institute. Boom, we did it. We're in the Institute. It's time to find my son. Only it's not my son. It's, spoilers, a synth, and my son is now like my frickin' grandpa. He's also the leader of the Institute and looks to reclaim the surface in the name of saving it, so you mean there's that. Clearly, since I'm not a bad father, I help my son with his slightly evil plot to dominate the Commonwealth. Starting with the reclaiming of all the synths from Bunker Hill and eliminating the Railroad. Look, sorry guys, that's my baby boy. After that, it's time to take out the Brotherhood of Steel. And after blowing up their airship base, the battle, if you can even call it that, is over. And everything's won. The Institute takes victory over the Commonwealth, only for my son to die of sickness, making me the new leader of the Institute. Honestly, even after 5 years, I still really enjoyed the story. It's a big-ass chase, and it's a bit corny at times, but it's all in the hopes to find your long-lost son. And that twist at the end was honestly pretty good, even now it is. And honestly, since you're given the option, you can even side against your son for different outcomes in the game. Overall, it's a simple campaign with a good story that can be finished in about 10 hours. Moving on in the graphics, I want to talk about how Fallout 4 looks visually, and for a game that was released in 2015, it still stands up pretty well to this day. There's a lot of good things to say about this game's graphics, especially its lighting. Indoor and outdoor, during any weather, it looks amazing. Every time it still looks good, and that's just the vanilla. The textures are good for the most part. They sometimes have trouble loading in and can occasionally look muddy, but it's really not that big of a deal. It's rare. They have a really cool and in-depth character customization system that really lets you take control of how you want your character to look. Even for 2015, it still looks better than some of the character models put out in today's games.
Hello, handsome.
Now, that's not to say I don't have a few problems with the game and how it looks at times, most of it being just little things like vegetation, and for a game that's set in a post-apocalyptic world, I guess that makes sense, but Jesus, sometimes it looks barren. That ugly, gross-ass baby in the beginning. It's always this dark-ass baby, no matter, you can make an albino character, a gray character, a blue character, and it just looks weird and moves weird, and I want to throw it in the trash can. Water in the game is nothing special, but honestly, I didn't expect it to be. There's this thing when you put on a hood, your character becomes bald and loses all of his or her hair, and honestly, that's weird. I don't like that. And there's a few weird animations, like how you reload certain guns, like the Fat Man, it's super obvious, and you know, occasionally when you limp and get your limbs broken. But other than that, it's a solid looking game. Again, for 5 years old, it's still holding up to these games today. Probably the most important question when playing a game: is it fun? And in short, yes, Fallout 4 is insanely fun with hours upon hours of content to enjoy. There's a ton of wacky and fun quests and an entire world that feels completely lived in. There's also tons of loot and plenty of scrap you can use to customize weapons, which Fallout 4 has an amazing customization system for. You can also use the scrap to build settlements, which can be tedious but well worth the effort if you put the time in, especially against the enemies of the Commonwealth. Anywhere from raiders, insects, super mutants, synths, and other crazy mutated creatures in the Commonwealth. There's a few difficulties you can switch between, the hardest being survival, which is... that's just a whole lot of death, so I stick to easy mode, where I can lockpick freely, get annoyed by the crappy hacking, and abuse the level up system, so I can easily tear through enemies and sell all their stuff to buy shit. One of my favorite features in Fallout is VATS, which honestly never disappoints me. It's the ability to slow down time and shoot people. Like, come on, what's cooler than that? Max Payne style, baby. There's a few bugs in the game, and I can't stress that enough, like, seriously, but none that really break the experience, so really it's fine. Overall, it's a fun game that you can really get lost into, whether it's the RPG side of things or just the wacky, fun, shooting people around and blowing them up with nukes kind of side of things. And that's not even including mods. Mods is where things get crazy. Anyways, thank you for watching this video if you even stuck around long enough to get to this part. If you like what you saw and you would like to see more, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and drop your favorite game in the comments. Until next time, this is Danson, signing off.